Into the room and check the baby. You want to refrain from touching or picking the baby up. And you just want to go in and look to make sure the baby's breathing and make sure everything's okay with the infant. Now, if you go into the room and the baby has stopped breathing, you can see the blueness in the face. The most common area is the lips. And you might even have to pull the lip down just to see the blueness inside there. Now, also, if it stopped breathing, there's no rise or fall in the chest. And if you can't tell because of the clothes on the baby, just rest your hand gently on the chest. If you don't feel the movement going up and down, then that's also an indication that it stopped breathing. Plus, the baby's very limp. There's no response from it. And if you see this, the first two steps you can do wherever the baby's at. And the first one is just a general stimulation. Starting out with a general rub on the baby's back or stomach, depending on the position it's in. And you do it for 5 to 10 seconds. And you can count out loud or count to yourself. Now, if the baby responds to general stimulation, you will know because it'll be something obvious. You'll get a movement, cry, you might even hear it take a breath. If that happens, you can stop. You don't have to go any further. You don't have to call an ambulance. All you have to do is document it on your sheet. If you have to do that a lot, the best thing to do is to call the pediatrician just to let them know. But if you do general stimulation for 5 to 10 seconds, you get no movement, no cry, the best thing to do is then go to vigorous stimulation. Support around the ankle and tap the bottom of the feet. As long as you support the ankle, you can hit the bottom of the feet hard, because what you're trying to do here is get the baby to cry. And the best thing to do is switch feet and tap both of them. And you'll do this for 5 to 10 seconds. Also, while you're doing this, you can be yelling out the baby's name, because that's also a form of stimulation. Now, if you do vigorous stimulation for 5 to 10 seconds, you get no movement, no cry, no reaction from the baby. We'll assume it's in a crib or playpen, take it out and put it on the hard surface. If you don't have a table right there, then just go right to the floor. And once you have it on the table or the floor, the first thing you're going to do is open the baby's airway. And you're going to open the airway by doing a head tilt chin lift, using the palm of the hand right on the baby's forehead, and then the index finger underneath the bony part of the chin. The index finger on the chin just helps you guide the head back. Now, for an infant, you're just going to tilt the head back just far enough so the nose faces the ceiling. Because on an infant, if you tilt the head all the way back, you'll just end up closing off the airway. And if the baby starts to breathe spontaneously, it will not be able to because you closed the airway off. So don't tilt it all the way back, just nose to ceiling. And once you have it in this position here, you're going to leave in this position through the whole procedure. So your hand in the forehead is going to stay there, keeping the airway open. Your index finger on the chin you can remove. The next step is, after you open the airway, is to check the airway to see if the baby did stop breathing. And you check the airway by doing your look, listen, and feel. And that's just putting your ear right over the baby's mouth, facing the baby's chest. And what you're doing here is, you're listening for a breath against your ear, you're feeling for a breath against your ear, or you're seeing if there's any movement in the chest. If the baby's already breathing or starts to breathe while you're doing this, you're going to see it from one of the 3 areas. And if you do, you can stop. You don't have to go any further. But if you do this for 5 to 10 seconds and you don't hear or feel any breathing against your ear, you don't see any movement in the chest, then you're going to have to breathe for the infant. And for an infant, when you breathe into an infant, you have to take your mouth and cover the baby's mouth and nose. So you have to have a firm seal around the mouth and nose, and what you're going to do is give 2 breaths into the baby. And each time you breathe into an infant, you just want to do a slow, small puff. So it's just basically 2 small puffs into the baby. You don't want to breathe too hard because their lungs are not that large. Once you give the 2 puffs into the baby, and you see the chest rise and fall for both, then you're going to go down and check the pulse. And on an infant, you check it for it in the arm, in between the elbow and the shoulder. And you use the first and second finger on the inside of the arm, the thumb on the outside, and you just hold them there gently. And you can use either arm, it doesn't matter. And you're going to check for 5 to 10 seconds. Now, you're either going to find a pulse in the arm, which means everything with the heart rate is fine, or you're not going to find a pulse, which means you're going to have to go in and pump the heart for the infant. First, we'll say there's no pulse in the arm. This is when you have to go into your chest compression. Lying your index finger across the nipple area, slide into the center until you feel the sternum or the breastbone. Lay your other two fingers down next to it, then remove the index finger. These two fingers here are what you're going to do the chest compressions with. And what you're going to have to do for each one is go down a half an inch to an inch. So short, rapid movements are not effective at all, and if you go down too far, you just hurt the infant. So you just want to go down a half an inch to an inch for each compression. And what you're going to have to do here is 5 compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After you do 5 compressions, you're then going to breathe once. 5 compressions, 1 breath is considered 1 time. You're going to have to do this 10 times, and you have to do it within a minute realm. Because the heart rate and the breathing of an infant is a lot faster than adults. So for this to be effective, you have to stay in that minute realm. So what you're going to be is right on top of the baby, and you're just going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breathe. All the way up to 10. Once you complete the 10 cycle assessment, you go back and check the pulse, the same way she did in the beginning, for 5 to 10 seconds. Now, if there's still no pulse in the arm, then you're going to have to go back in and do another 10 cycle assessment. And the second time you start, you're going to start with the breath first. After you breathe into the baby, you're then going to line up your fingers and go right back into a 10. You're going to do this until either the baby responds or until help arrives. The answer to your question is, for calling an ambulance, going back to the beginning, you're going to start out with the stimulation. If there's no response, you then go to vigorous, tapping the feet, calling the baby's name. Still no response, someone else is in the house with you, tell that person to go call 911. Whoever is doing the procedure on the baby will just keep going through what I'm showing you now until either the baby responds or until help arrives. If you're by yourself and this happens, you're going to start the CPR first. You're going to go through all the steps I just showed you. And once you complete that first cycle of 10, that's when you're going to stop and go to the phone. And if the phone's not right there, you're going to take the baby with you and go to the phone. You're going to dial the emergency number, which is 911. Tell them that you are performing CPR on the infant. After you give them all the information, you're then going to go right back into it. And you're just going to continue until either the ambulance arrives or until the baby comes through. So that's where the first part comes in. When you have no pulse in the arm, you have to line up your fingers and go into the 5 compressions, 1 breath, 10 times. If you get a pulse in the arm, this is the other procedure to it. If you get a pulse, what it means is everything with the heart rate is fine. So you do not do the chest compressions. So if you get a pulse in the arm, do not do the chest compressions, but go back and check the breathing. Because you can have a pulse but no breathing. And you go back and check the same way as you did in the beginning, to look, listen, and feel. And if the baby's not breathing, you're then going to have to breathe for it once every 3 seconds. So you're going to cover the mouth and nose, small puff, then listen for 3 seconds. Small puff, listen for 3. And you're going to keep doing this until either the baby starts breathing or until the ambulance arrives. And when you're doing just the rescue breathing, keep checking the pulse, or check it at least every minute. Because if it stops again, or stops for the first time, all you have to do is line up your fingers and go right into a 10 cycle assessment. So that's where the 2 steps come in. No pulse in the arm, 5 compressions, 1 breath, 10 times. If there is a pulse, you stop the compressions, you go back and check the breathing.
That's the same way you do it here.
On adult, the things that are different is, like, you don't do general vigorous for adult. You're doing the shake and shout for adult and child.
Yeah, because I could see CPR every time.
The ABCs are basically the same. Open the airway, check the airway, it's not breathing, breathe, and then check pulse. That part is basically the same. But like even the chest compressions, 2 fingers for a child.
Just get the baby out, okay?
Yeah. Butterfly as soft and gentle as a sigh.
multicolored of love like its satin wings. Love makes your heart feel strange inside. It flutters like soft wings in flight. Flutters like a butterfly, a rare and gentle thing. Love is like a butterfly, a rare and gentle thing. You're attractive, but oh, my heart grew active when you came into view. I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie, all the day and night time. Hear me sigh. Could you care for a cunning cottage? We could share the world apart, my mush. 'Cause I've got a crush, my baby, on you. Could you care for a cunning cottage? We could share the world apart, my much. 'Cause I have got a crush, my baby, on.
And then you're gonna have to learn how to smile. But a little better than that. Photographer comes.
Is this channel 6?
Yes.
Or CBS?
I can't believe she's leaving. Yeah. Big day. Yeah. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. I love you. Finish filming?
So see you like something. Never got the chance to prove myself. Though I tried to play their game, but using people just ain't my thing. I won't beg from any strength to please some fool I don't care about. They turn blue inside. I'm going home. I'm going home, going home. Tell someone to meet me, I'm home.
I left the blanket. The pink one is in the bag. It's in the bag.
to it. I know that I really can do it. I got my mind set on you. Set on you. I got my mind set on you. Set on you. But it's gonna take